Since the Assyrians were the dominant Near East power in the 8th century BC, it is no wonder that several books report about the Assyrian period: Isaiah, Jonah, Nahum, 2nd Kings, and 2nd Chronicles. Assyrian King Shalmaneser V died in the siege against Samaria. The carrying away of the captives is carried out by Sargon II. In Isaiah chapter 20, verse 1, it is said, Sargon, king of Assyria, sent Tartan and fought against Ashdod and took it. This is the only known mention of Sargon's name in extant ancient literature. Thus, mentioning the name of a king never known to have existed, the critics said, was one of the Bible's blunders. But in 1842, Bata discovered the ruins of Sargon's palace in Khorsabad, on the northern edge of Nineveh, with treasures and inscriptions showing him to have been one of Assyria's greatest kings. Yet his name had disappeared from history, save this lone mention in Isaiah, until Bata's discovery. From inscriptions, it is learned that Shalmaneser died while besieging Samaria and that he was succeeded by Sargon, who completed the capture. Furthermore, verifying the statement from Isaiah chapter 20, verse 1, an additional inscription of Sargon says, Azuri, king of Ashdod, planned in his heart not to pay tribute. In my anger, I marched against Ashdod with my usual bodyguard. I conquered Ashdod and Gath. I took their treasures and their people. I settled in them people from the lands of the east. I took tribute from Philistia, Judah, Edom, and Moab. Meanwhile, great changes within the development of ancient Greece were taking place. The last phase of the Bronze Age in ancient Greece, the ancient Mycenaeans, ending around 1200 BC, was the beginning of the first advanced and distinctively Greek civilization in mainland Greece. Engineering, architecture, urban organization, military infrastructure, and works of art all saw great developments in this period. During the Archaic or Old period, beginning around 800 BC, massive increases in population, expanded settlements, and progress in politics, economics, international relations, warfare, and cultural development took place in Greece. Soon we will observe the impact that ancient Grecian culture imposed upon the entire world, including the land of Palestine. Some of the greatest figures of world history lived during Judah's last 150 years. Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, Sennacherib, and Nebuchadnezzar. From the point of view of the secular historian, Hezekiah and Josiah were less important. Nevertheless, they left their mark. But the men from this period who, in the final analysis, have probably had the greatest influence on Judeo-Christian civilization were not kings or generals. They were the prophets of God, Isaiah, Micah, Jeremiah, and their colleagues. These men not only had an effect on numerous historical events, they provided an interpretation of the whole sweep of history, declaring that Yahweh was Lord of history and was using events and nations to work out his eternal purposes. In doing this, they reshaped the thinking of their people and gave them a vision of hope that sustained them through the dark years of Babylonian exile and enabled them to begin their national life anew in the expectation of a Messiah who would bring God's plan to fulfillment. Isaiah had declared that Assyria was unwittingly serving God's purposes in punishing Israel. When that punishment was complete, however, Isaiah had a new message, a message of judgment for Assyria and of possible hope for the remnant of Israel and toward Judah. The Assyrians had made people submit to their yoke and boasted of their strength. God would now punish his arrogant tool, Assyria. Before we go any further, let's take a look at some of the historical background of the ancient region known as Mesopotamia. Going back to the days of Noah, Noah had 3 sons. Now the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was populated. To the sons of Japheth was prophesied enlargement or expansion. Due to Ham's disrespect toward his father, the descendants of Ham would be cursed. It was through Shem that the scriptures would be written and the divine revelation of the Savior and Redeemer would appear. The diverse peoples, cultures, and ethnicities classified as Semitic share commonalities in language. No other language has a longer recorded history. Semites can trace their heritage back to Shem, one of Noah's sons. In ancient history, the term Semite included the Arabs, Assyrians, Akkadians of central Babylonia, the early Chaldeans of southern Babylonia, Canaanites, Arameans, certain groups in Ethiopia, the Hebrew tribes, and some of the neighboring nations of Israel, such as the Ammonites and the Moabites. Semites share a large portion of their history and background, but have found little peace amongst each other. The word Mesopotamia comes from the ancient Greek root words mesos, meaning middle, and potamos, meaning river, and translates to a land between rivers. This is considered to be the cradle of civilization. Human civilization and the development of early complex urban centers began here. The Fertile Crescent. Although there were meager rainfalls in most of the region, the land was well irrigated by canals. The fertile soil yielded rich food and heavy crops of date palms, fiber, wood, and feed for livestock. Both the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers have an abundance of fish, and the southern marshes contain plentiful wildfowl. Being a land of plenty combined with rich commerce and strategic value, the river valleys and plains of Mesopotamia were often attacked from the rivers, the northern and eastern hills, the Arabian desert, and the Syrian plains. It is believed that the Mesopotamian region was the location of the Garden of Eden. The Akkad or Sumer region is known to be the location for the first use of writing symbols used for communication, the first alphabetic writing system. This ancient system of communication was carried to Greece by Phoenician maritime merchants, where it was refined and enhanced. The Mesopotamian region was the location of the Tower of Babel. Abraham was from Ur of the Chaldeans. Beginning about 1350 BC, Assyria, a northern Mesopotamian kingdom, began to assert itself. Assyrian armies defeated the Mitanni in the north and conquered Babylon about 1225 BC, reaching the Mediterranean about 1100 BC. Aramean or Syrian tribes, along with related Chaldean tribes of southern Babylonia, halted Assyrian expansion for the next 200 years. To secure itself, Assyria fought these tribes and others, expanding again after 900 BC, at its greatest extent between 730 and 650 BC. The Assyrian Empire controlled the Middle East.